Look at this. No way the cost of living crisis is this bad. Check this out. Look, this has just flabbergasted me completely. Look at that. It's a child's toy car. And she's driving. There's no way the cost of living's this much. It's got his speakers on the back. Oh my goodness. This guy can't believe it. And she's out on the road. Look, she's going down the road.
All right, she's really taking that on the road, people. Is that a sign of the times or what? She does have the nice speaker system, though, in the back. Look at that.
This much.
But by the way, that's the original electric vehicle there. You get a 4-hour charge on that, and that'll take you at least 80 feet. 80 feet. But yeah, not recommended to drive that on the roads, folks. Hey, everybody, you're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. Back with another dose. The cost of living continues to punish individuals. People barely scraping by. Still, inflation, still a problem. Not just inflation, but price levels in general. A big problem as we see consumers continue to run up debt just to get by. And more, it's necessities that are being purchased on credit cards. And folks, it's not going to end well. And it's already not ending well for many people. Some people say, well, you keep saying that. When's it going to happen? Well, it's already happening for millions of people, and we're going to hear from a few of them today. Starting in 2020, we saw what happened. A lot of people relocated. The housing market went boom. Specifically, Texas and Florida, the two states that saw the biggest influx of population and therefore the biggest run-up in prices. I warned against that in 2023. I said, be careful in these states. Look what's happening now. These two states, Florida and Texas, are the most distressed financially. Take a look at what this guy says here.
Florida just ranked as the second most financially distressed state in the entire
Texas
country.
And Florida.
Only where Texas is worse. It's not just an opinion. This comes straight from Google data. So what does financially distressed mean? It means more people are struggling to pay their bills, searching for payday loans, rent help, credit card relief, you name it. They are going to Google for help.
Did y'all hear that? So more people searching for financial help in those two states versus any other state. Payday loans, buy now, pay later, things like that, debt consolidation.
And Floridians are struggling to survive here. And let's be real, it's not just hard to see why. Rents in Florida have skyrocketed. Groceries and insurance are completely out of control. Wages really haven't kept up. Families are working 2, sometimes 3 full-time jobs and still can't get ahead. Meanwhile, Florida politicians brag about cutting taxes for the wealthy and corporations while everyday people are drowning. And in Texas, where things are even worse, it's the same story. Leadership that ignores working class struggles while protecting big business. Now, this matters because these states are often held up by models of economic success. But the reality is people are just being left behind, and the data proves it. If the so-called Florida model is leaving people broke, maybe it's time we rethink what success really looks like. Be sure to follow along for updates.
Yeah, Florida and Texas, people. And, of course, wages didn't keep up because it was an artificial boom in prices because, well, I really shouldn't say artificial. It was a boom that was created by a lot of people moving there. But jobs didn't come there as quickly as people were moving there, so naturally wages didn't keep up. And then he brought it up. I'll just speak about it for a minute here. The tax cuts. People thought that corporate tax cuts were going to trickle down to the workers, but what happened? Just the opposite happened. It didn't trickle down. In fact, there was no trickle, and any trickle that was kept at the top. They bought back more of their own stock. That's what companies did. They gave themselves bigger raises at the top without giving wage increases big enough to keep up with the rising cost of living.
Guys, everything is so expensive and I'm sick of it. I mean, like, I went to go buy like a little sandwich at the convenience store and it was $7. I'm like, $7? What the hell? So then I'm like, what about a dollar menu? Depends
on what type of convenience store you're shopping at. If you're shopping at 7-Eleven, it's not the most bang for your buck as far as sandwiches go.
Don't exist anymore. And then the cost of vegetables is up 36% in July. Are you kidding me? Vegetables? This is outrageous. Like, I am at the point to where I'm going to be a breatharian. I'm just going to survive on light and oxygen because I don't know what else to do. I can't afford to eat.
How do people afford to live? I am leaving Costco with 6 items. $165 for 6
Wait,
things.
did you say 6 items?
I am leaving Costco with 6 items. $165
About
for
right for
6
Costco.
things. I mean, salmon's one of them, but
Folks, the cost of living so high, even Pamela Anderson's complaining. Just kidding.
my heart goes out to all you moms and dads who are raising families and trying to feed your kids. I don't have any college educations to pay for. 6 items, $165. How are families making it and surviving in this day and age? Holy cow.
All right, folks, I had to stop and take a look. The $165 haul from Costco. We got some built, are those protein bars? We got some extra gum. Got some chocolate drinks. Ghost, what are those protein bars? Chips back there. That can't be $165. But would she lie? I mean, this is Costco where you're supposed to get a lot of, big bulk servings. But $165 for that seems like it's outrageous. Ghost, what are those drinks? Wow. I would feel ripped off paying that much for those items. Folks, here's someone talking about a topic that we've talked about here many times, how companies are cutting jobs, but then just making the ones that are still employed there do the extra work.
The economy is so bad that companies are downsizing and cutting staff and making one person do the job of 3 and 4 people. Companies are pinching pennies, they're lowering wages, they're not giving raises or bonuses. The cost of everything has gone up exponentially. Trying to get an education to get out of your field, to get into another field to make money, isn't working either because the cost of education has gone up several.
She's so financially distressed she can't even sit up and talk about it. She's got to lay down. That's how stressed out she is.
100%. This sentiment does not work when there are people who have been in their jobs for years, who have degrees, who have work experience, who have been with a business for like 10, 15 years. They're being let go, and then they can't get a job for more than like $17 an hour, $20 an hour max, which is not a livable wage right now. So yes, you absolutely need to do your research.
And folks, there's still people out there that think that everything is fine and that there's no problems. Mostly what I'm seeing, though, is people with very low overhead, people that bought their home 15 plus years ago, and people without, when I say overhead, I'm talking about families, right? It's the single people that I see are doing the best financially. They have extra money to invest every month, so they've made pretty good investments. And if you don't have extra money at the end of the month, you're not going to be able to invest. And that's one of the reasons why I've been talking about that less here on this channel. I used to talk about investing a lot more. But what I found out through my audience and comments and people messaging me is, hey, what do I do? At the end of the month, I don't have any money. And now that this is happening to about 70% of the population, that's kind of the target audience that I'm going for now, is talking about this. First of all, we have to try to figure out what we can do to not live paycheck to paycheck. And if you can't go out and just make more money, another side hustle, which takes up time and energy. A lot of people can't do that, health conditions. And a lot of times it's just stress, the stress of working multiple jobs. The thing you could do is cut back on spending, and it's not easy, but you can cut back on spending. The lady that went to Costco with the energy drinks, the Ghost drinks, I don't know what they were. Let me look it up real quick to see what they were. I think I found the same brand. Excuse me, looks like the same logo. $1.99 each at, this is Walmart. So I'm not sure if Costco would have been much cheaper. Folks, instead of energy drinks, I love energy drinks. Days where you just need to pick me up, something quick, grab an energy drink. I use them sometimes if I'm really tired, but folks, drink water and then maybe buy some supplements to give yourself a little caffeine boost. You get this whole thing for like $8, like 20 tablets. Actually, no, this was cheaper. I got a different one that was $8. Whoops, right here. 60 tablets for $8, called Super Energy. Takes a little bit longer to kick in because it's a tablet versus a drink where it kind of gets in your system a little bit quicker. So I would just recommend cutting back on buying these canned drinks, right? And that's $1.99. You can find canned drinks for 50 cents at certain stores. Grocery Outlet's a good store to get cheaper drinks. But a lot of people that I see complaining about the cost of living, they're not living as cheaply or as cost effective as they could. Other times, people are cutting back, drinking water only, cooking meals at home instead of eating out. They're not going on trips, not going on vacations. They buy vehicles that aren't new, vehicles that are 3, 4, 5 years old, sometimes even older. And they're still struggling to get by. That's the big problem, right? And it's really, like I said, really challenging for younger people just graduating or just getting out of college right now with the cost of everything.
Question for the younger people out there. What is it like for you economically right now? Because I just want to paint a picture of what it's like 20 years ago. I'm 45, so when I was in my mid-20s, mid-2000s, here's just what it was like for me when I was starting out. I had an apartment in Chicago. It was a studio, $550 a month. It was a couple blocks from the lake, a few blocks north of Wrigley Field, if you're familiar with the north side of Chicago. Perfectly fine. And I just was working a whatever job. I was making $14 an hour, temping in an office.
Wow. Wait a minute, though. $550 a month, Chicago.
$550 a month. It was a couple blocks from the lake, a few blocks north of Wrigley Field.
The lake, Wrigley Field. You can go watch the Cubs lose for very low costs of rent, $550 a month. Kidding. The Cubs got better, I think, in the past few years, didn't they? I quit watching baseball.
Side of Chicago, perfectly fine. And I just was working a whatever job. I was making $14 an hour, temping in an office. I rode the bus to work. Completely fine. I could live. A couple years later, I bought a
$14 an hour, you're living in the heart of Chicago.
car, a Hyundai that was not great, but it was fine. It had 20,000 miles on it, for $2,500, right? So I was able to just pay cash for kind of a junky car, but it ran. Now, that same apartment in Chicago, I was looking it up today, is almost triple the price. Triple. It's like $1,500. And you can't even find a car for $2,500 now. Like, I was looking just like, I wonder what a used car goes for. Even a $10,000 used car is absolute trash. It has like 180,000 miles on it, 5 different owners, an accident. So it's like you literally can't do what was completely normal to do 20 years ago. I'm not talking about the baby boomer time. Like, I bought a house for 5 raspberries in the 60s. I'm talking about 2005. You can't even do that. So I'm so curious what it's like for you now, because it seems unsustainable. I don't know how a young person that's 20, 21 years old is expected to go out into the market and pay $1,700 for their first apartment. But it's a studio. Doesn't even have its own bedroom.
All right, folks, let's also talk about the numbers that are being put out there as far as the economy with inflation and CPI number, consumer price inflation. And what's being discussed is the year-over-year number. It only looks back 1 year, right? So inflation compared to last year, usually between 2 and 3%. But what it doesn't look back more than a year. So obviously you're not going to see the 20+% that's happened since 2020. Let's go ahead and watch a video that actually discusses this. And if you've been on this channel, you know this here, but take a listen to this.
That's the cost of living crisis. Suddenly we went up from prices being around there to prices being there. And you don't really see that in this data, okay? Because inflation is really just measuring the difference between that and that. And if you look at those two
that 1 year, year-over-year inflation, that's the number.
lines, you're talking about a 2.3% change. That's the number we're talking about today. But for a lot of people, it's not about that. It's about the difference between this and that. And when you look at the difference between this and that, that's 20%. And I think that's the dichotomy here between these inflation numbers where it looks normal and this, which is really not normal at all.
So does that make sense, folks? So we're looking at these numbers to compare prices to last year, and you may say 2%, that's no big deal. But it's a lot more than 2%. One, if you look at all the different things that people have to pay for, look at utility bills, insurance, lots of other things, rents, way more than 2%. But even if you go off those numbers, it still doesn't tell you the other 20% plus before that, the years before that. So if things cost too much now, even 1%, even 0.1%, is too much of a price increase. If things already cost too much, any price increase is bad. In fact, anything that's not a price drop is bad when things already cost too much.
So I know everybody is feeling this, but how are we doing this? I am in my 30s. I have my master's in business administration. My husband is an engineer. We should be making great money and be golden when it comes to money, right? That's what I was raised thinking. And instead, just like everybody else, we are living paycheck to paycheck. Like,
wow, folks. Paycheck to paycheck. Master's degree. What was her husband? Engineer.
master's in business administration. My husband is an engineer. We should be making great money and be golden when it comes to money, right? That's what I was raised thinking. And instead, just like everybody else, we are living paycheck to paycheck. Like, it is so hard. We have a house. We were lucky enough to get a house. I know a lot of people can't do that and haven't had that opportunity. But our house mortgage has gone up $400 or $500 since when we first bought it. Property taxes, they just keep going up and up. So with that, our mortgage just keeps climbing too.
Surprised she didn't say insurance. Insurance companies are really raising prices.
We have 2 kids. With kids comes diaper prices, comes formula, comes everything else that comes with it, including daycare. Daycare. We were able to find a daycare that's actually pretty inexpensive compared to a lot of other daycares. And even with that, it is still costing more than our mortgage does every month.
Daycare more than the mortgage. Ouch.
I'm just so tired. And I know everybody is in the same boat too. Prices are going up for literally everything. Everything. But when it comes to pay, our paychecks will go up, a couple percent, but nothing compared to inflation on everything. I just don't understand how we keep doing it. And where's the breaking point? Where does that come in? When do things turn around? Because there's no end in sight.
Yeah, and they want to cut rates. They want to cut rates, which is going to make inflation explode even higher because it's going to be more people borrowing money, bigger loans because the payments will be lower with the lower rates. It's going to make car prices go up, home prices go up even faster.
In the long run. And again, I say this knowing that we are still very privileged. We still have a lot of things that other people do not, but it's still just such a struggle. You know, we're given this promise basically when we're younger that if you get the degree and you do this and do that right, then like you'll be set, you'll be golden when it comes to money and not have to worry about it. And then to grow up and face the fact that all of that's bullshit. Like they fed it into being such a lie and such a trap basically that everybody is just buried in different student loans. Everybody is buried in different kinds of debt that we'll never get out of, that they promised us would create a safe and happy.
People are realizing it. People are getting the rude awakening. Young people are getting the rude awakening. They were sold a false hope.
Thriving future. None of it's there.
A false future.
So thanks, boomers and beyond. Yes.
She says thanks to boomers. A lot of people are blaming the boomers. The boomers did have it very easy, much easier financially, much easier. I know my dad was one of them, and he paid off his home early, and he was a very challenged individual. I've talked about it here before, a lot heavy drinker. Still managed to pay off his mortgage, never talked about being in foreclosure, having late payments, never got any utilities shut off, never even really heard my parents argue about finances. And this was one income, folks. It's back in the 90s. Things are so much different now. And the scary part is things aren't really going to go back to the way they were because the things that caused inflation are still being done. I mean, a little bit, things are different compared to just a few years ago when inflation exploded, but they're not doing anything to stop the price levels from going higher.
The price for 1 pound of ground beef more than the federal minimum wage, guys. How crazy is this? And like, how far are they going to let these grocery prices get before they realize that regular people can just not afford this crap? Like, Right now, let's do a comparison. Let's use like a couple big chains at where I live. I'm on the West Coast. So we've got like Albertsons, we've got Vons, we've got Stater Brothers, which I think is kind of like a West Coast thing. All of those are about twice the
We're going to answer these questions that he's presenting here right after this video, right after he talks.
price of an Aldi, a Walmart, a Winco, a Safeco, or a Heb, or like a Food for Less if you have that. So I will tell you that of all the places that I'm shopping right now, Aldi happens to be my favorite. And no, they don't have everything.
I love Aldi. Food for Less. I went to Food for Less a few times. It didn't seem that cheap at all. Didn't seem like it was less.
And Aldi is like the great value brand at Walmart. That's all they have in the whole store is the Aldi brand. So there's not as much selection, but I like a lot of the stuff that they have there. So I did a price comparison out here. Stater Brothers, which is down the street from me, has amazing butcher department. The meat department is great. So I went and bought my weekly groceries there, $240. Next week, compared it, same.
$240 a week, folks. So $1,000 a month basically for groceries. He didn't say how many people were in his family, how many people he's buying for, but $1,000 a month sounds pretty typical for someone with at least one child. Maybe two kids, you can get away with $1,000 a month. But why is this happening? He's talking about the rising grocery prices in places that are cheaper than others. But the reason it's happening is because people still have credit. If people still have credit and they can put it on their credit card, they'll continue to buy. It's when the credit cards get shut off or when people can no longer run up more debt on these credit cards, that's when prices will start dropping, because when demand finally stops, then that's when they'll have to lower prices. The retailers will have no choice but to lower prices at that point, because the items, the products will just sit on the shelves unless people are stealing them, which of course that's going to happen. But prices will just sit on the shelves when people don't have the available credit. We know that most people are buying things on credit now, even groceries. Most people living paycheck to paycheck, they're forced to buy groceries, gas, everything on credit. And as soon as the credit stops, then that's when prices start coming down. So that's the answer, folks. Let me know what you think about this down in comments, please.